Fellas, welcome back. Hope you're doing well. Let's watch a little Cheese today, why don't we? So Cheese, up-and-coming talent in North America, been rumored in a lot of potential rosters, especially some big names that are looking to fill out. NRG is the first one that comes to mind. And his offseason has been a bit unclear, I guess is a good adjective, because it seemed like it was certain that he was going to be signing with Ghost Gaming, which is going to be alongside Andy and Toasty. But Achilles from Shift had put out a tweet that was, I'm paraphrasing, but it was like, nothing's complete while they're still working out contracts, etc. And also we're still seeing him in roster rumors, so it seems like Cheese's future is still up in the air. And, rightfully so. I think a lot of different organizations and players would want to play alongside Cheese as an up-and-comer. As we'll see over the course of this video, he's just a smart player. I think is the easiest way I could put it. Defensively, he can get a little panicked at some spots, and we'll see that over the course of these couple of games here. This first one is against G2 Esports, or the artist formerly known as G2 Esports. And they play him real close. And I can't remember offhand who the second game that I chose is against, but both of them just a confident player, a pretty gifted offensive player, just somebody who can fit a lot of the roles that you'd want. I would assume that he would look to, somebody like a Radosin as a kind of do-it-all Swiss Army knife kind of player, just a controlled, player who can affect both sides of the ball. But Cheese a little bit here. Let's talk first and foremost about that Ghost Gaming roster. I want Cheese to do well because he was somebody who came on pretty hot late last season. He was on that Koi roster, and that was alongside, as you can see here, Sosa and Gyro. Just a roster that you don't really have super high expectations, but man, they were putting up some half decent results against some teams that they shouldn't be putting one up against. And there's a little bug on the replay there, but I felt like Cheese was a big element in kind of what made them go. So they get a transition layup here. I had done my top 37 power rankings for North America recently. I put that on fanrl.com on Dano's blog there, and I had Cheese fairly far down the list. I think I had him around 26th or something like that. And my description of him, while almost every other player was very thorough, my description of Cheese was, I don't really know a lot about this player. Sorry to break it to you guys. I wasn't catching every single Koi game towards the end of the season there as we were ramping up towards the World Championship. But the spurts that we did see, Cheese looked great, and I think it makes sense for him to potentially set his sights a little bit higher than that Ghost Gaming roster alongside Toasty and Andy. I'm a believer in Toasty. Dano and I bought quite a bit of stock in him early last season. Axel kind of let us down once again. I felt like Gimmick was the best player on that roster towards the end of the season, which isn't great if you're a Toasty believer. And Andy, if Dignitas wouldn't have made that one major, what was that, the Winter Major, where it certainly seemed like they were one of the weaker teams represented at that event, I don't know if we'd talk about Andy in the same way. I like Andy, but he's not, I'm not wearing my Andy pajamas to bed. He's not, really set my world on fire. So for Cheese to be alongside, a player like Garrett G and an organization with some high expectations, that would be cool to see. They did go ahead and sign Frosty, as we saw, who is a complete unknown commodity, which makes me lean towards them picking up a player like Mist or Chicago, or even keeping Justin. Those have all been rumors. You bring in Fireburner as the coach. Clearly you're not looking to do like a full rebuild, I wouldn't assume, based on the moves they made. So Frosty's already a lot. So going Eris or Cheese seems a little unproven, but if they had to pick one of those players. I would like it to be Cheese. I think he's shown quite a bit. As I had talked in that Stizzy video that I had recently posted, you know, it's not the same as something like the NBA, where a player needs to kind of, you know, go through the strides of showing something before they can be, you know, a star in the league. In the RLCS, I mean, you know, you get some off-season time, you just grind your mechanics, you get a better situation. I mean, players can get real good real quick. So taking a player like Cheese certainly would not be a risk. If he ends up landing on that Ghost Gaming roster, I think he's the best player on that team. And if he goes to NRG, I think there could be an argument that he could do the same there, although I think it's Garrett currently. And I have rambled through the entirety of this game as we have found overtime. G2 were able to get their goals just, you know, breaking down the defense and finding some passes to the midfield. And I believe that Cheese scored both of the goals for Koi. One of them was just that breakaway in transition that we saw, and then one was just good positioning to finish one in the box. And let's see what we've got in overtime. A nice backside demo to kind of shake things up. Strong positionally. That's the thing about Cheese, is like you can see that he's playing the thinking man's game. Like, even though he didn't get that bump on Chicago there, you know, he put a ball past two to slow down the transition, then tried to get the bump. You know, he just seems like a player who I would trust in bigger moments, where some players seem to get a little wobbly and things like that. Cheese's decision making doesn't seem to worsen dramatically once we get to overtime or big games. And that was a crazy save there by Sosa, another player who, geez, you know, definitely not top 10 or top 20 for that matter. Honestly, he might be top 20. I'm a big fan of Sosa. He seems to make winning plays quite often, but this is about Cheese, isn't it? It's great to see a lot of these North American up-and-coming players get bigger opportunities. We've already seen players like Frosty, who we just talked about, signed to NRG. We're seeing Nas come over and get a big opportunity for M80. And even the situation where, you know, we're seeing a lot of the same names float around here. Eris and Cheese are ones that kind of started this thinking pattern. And I think we're actually about to hit the end of the game here. Sosa's going to go off the ceiling, barely get the reset, float one up, and Cheese is going to just blast J-Naps on the finish there. But it's cool to see these players get opportunities. I'm surprised because we still have a lot of talent floating around that is unsigned, and the opportunities are starting to close up here. I mean, Arsenal, Mist, Chicago, Justin. I'm almost certain that I'm forgetting some massive names, and it seems like I'm disrespecting them, but they're just skipping me right now. But, you know, as we're getting more talent coming over between Dorito, Joria's, Nas, the opportunities are kind of soaking up here. They're disappearing, rather, which is surprising because I just can't see a world where those players I had mentioned, you know, Arsenal, even Calm is still technically floating around. I can't imagine a world where they don't end up on top rosters, because I believe in all of them so fully. But, you know, that's kind of the result of NA not having a great season and Europe being clearly some steps ahead. It's kind of like, you know, in the NBA where you know, you'll have a certain conference that just absolutely crushes the other, or even a team within a conference, you know, that will totally blast. Like when the Warriors had that, you know, awesome unbeatable roster, the rest of the NBA was like, well, shoot, we gotta keep up, we gotta keep pace. And in the same way that the West was better than the East for like 8 straight seasons, you know, now North America's you force yourself to make some, you know, potentially dangerous decisions. And in this case, to tie a bow on it, it's, you know, introducing a lot of new talent and shaking up the players that we've seen at the top for so long. And I feel like Cheese is a player that can, you know, be amongst that crop of new talent. Cheese, if I remember correctly, he's actually the player who came over from the Switch. He spent like 6K hours on the Switch and then changed over to PC, which is pretty cool. And by the way, we're playing against old version 1 here, as Cheese is going to take one off the hood of Beast Mode, and it's going to lead to a goal to tie things up here. But this game, let me talk about this for a second. This is actually, I believe this is Game 4 or Game 5 against version 1, when they ended up winning a regional, if I remember correctly. And I feel like this is an important game to see, because it's not only an important game against a big opponent, but one that was in form over the course of this season. And it's kind of the same thing I had talked about with that Stizzy video, where it's cool to see up-and-coming players be a big part of winning formulas, or close to winning formulas against talent that we all kind of accept is a rung above them. There's one of those smart plays I was talking about from Cheese, where it looks like he's gonna get rushed, and actually V1 was baiting him into trying to go quick and just bang it out to the other end. But very slowly, methodically, recognizes that, takes the catch, and then an extra touch. Just a smart player overall. And Cheese is another one of those players who has been catching some notoriety for a good reason, because he's took a roster that was underperforming in some ways and improved the results. So I don't think we've had the opportunity yet to talk stats for Cheese. As soon as I say he improved the results, it's tough to look over here and see that his roster's only won 36% of their games, which is just about as low as it gets. I have this sheet that filters all NA and EU players who played at least 50 games last season, and Cheese is pretty far down the list for winning percentage, but that's not really his fault entirely. But I digress. So statistically, above average goals per game, above average saves, shooting percentage, goal participation, and he's right at rating. So statistically, not a player who really pops off the screen at you. It's really more of those like intangible things that take him over the edge. I guess it's just fresh on the mind. I don't think he's like a Draymond Green type, but one of those players where the intangible stuff is worth more than the actual stat sheet shows. There's a lot of players that I could think of, but I've already talked a lot of NBA, haven't I? I don't know, guys. It's a long off season. NBA's starting back up, so I got it fresh on the mind. So let's focus in on the gameplay here as we're getting towards the end of this second game. It's been tightly contested, not a ton of scoring opportunities, but Cheese has been steady on the goal line and just making smart plays. We're gonna go for the squishy here. Just the stones to do that with 2 seconds left in a tie game as Daniel's sprinting at you, I think is notable. And now we're catching overtime. Have you guys seen a theme? I've chosen overtime games for the last 4 games we've shown on the channel. I'm a big fan of golden goal situations. So Cheese there could have dove in a little further, gets a nice trade, but ends up just taking the smart 50, not put your team in a bad situation. Nice little catch there on the wall. That's again what I'm talking about. Like, a lot of players there would try and go fast, miss the boost, maybe focus on the boost, turn it over. Cheese does not get sped up. Cheese plays at his own speed. Crazy ball out. He's just not even gonna consider that. Gonna come back. A nice little catch there once again. Tries to get the pop past beast mode. At least puts him into an awkward situation where he can't make another play on the ball. Again, just here we're gonna try and force the opponent out. Can you guys tell that I don't do a lot of shoutcasting and am not good at doing this live? But she's gonna put one away there to end the game off the play from Sosa. Let's go ahead and look at that. Just really dynamic on the ball here in a big situation. What a beautiful touch past beast mode, and then the nice little extra bump there on Daniel. And that's Cheese, guys. 5 saves in the game. really efficient shooting, just exactly where you need him to be all over the pitch, and that's something that I think is really valuable. But okay, guys, have a great rest of your day, and until next time, talk to you later. Bye.